That's me, Carol Metcalf-Roth, and I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. One of the things I'm known for is that I use comedy in my therapy sessions. When somebody laughs in a session, that stimulates their endorphins, their serotonin to laugh, and then they say, I feel better, and they're not afraid anymore. Then we can get down to the work at the end of the laughter, and we can work on how we can lift your depression. And I know a thing or two about making people laugh. Not only am I a therapist, but I'm also a stand-up comic.
I'm just going to say this. Doesn't Donald Trump look like the guy that you're worried about sexual harassment tapes at work?
So how does a stand-up comic on her third marriage become a marriage counselor? I've had a lot of practice.
I had some bitch say to me one time, I don't want to see a therapist, been married 3 times. Experienced marriage family therapist, all right?
My own childhood was not without challenges. My mother was a beautiful redhead bipolar who was married to a Air Force Chief Master Sergeant in Strategic Air Command. So we moved all over the country. When I was 4, my mother had a nervous breakdown, and my little sister Cindy was born, and she was hospitalized for a year, and we went to live with my aunt and uncle in Illinois. One of my first memories in my life of using humor was when I was 6 years old, and my mother had come back from staying in a mental institution, and she was picking my sisters and I up from my aunt and uncle's place with my dad. And I walked up here and I said, are you Mom? And she says, well, yes, you don't recognize me. She says, wow, I gotta say you look a lot better than last time. And she started laughing. From a very young age, I decided that I was going to make my sisters laugh. I did characters off television. I did the entire Ed Sullivan Show. And now, Steve, I would do impressions of my teachers or my parents. All right, everybody, get in your pajamas, get in bed right now. We're getting up at 0800 hours. It was empowering for me because it made me feel happy and it made me feel like I had some power. And I continued to use that and found out it was a wonderful tool for the rest of my life to deal with adversity and to go forward. And then it turned into a professional career for me as a comic. I got my first big break in comedy when I moved to Los Angeles. And I had only been there 2 weeks, and I thought, oh, I'll just walk down to Comedy Store and tell them I'm here. The guy, see you at the back of the line, you get 3 minutes. So I went and did 3 minutes, and Mitzi Shore was in the back. And she had her cocktail as usual, and she said, come here. All right, Blondie, let me tell you. I could tell from your accent you're from Texas. Do what you know. Don't talk about anything else but your family. And so I said, okay. And I said, can I do some more time? No, you have to go away. You didn't make it this time.
Yeah, my daddy was one of those kind of crusty Texas guys. You know, I asked him, well, Daddy, what do you want me to do when I grow up? He said, move out.
When I first started doing stand-up, it was male-dominated. You hardly ever heard of any woman going on the road, for example, and doing stand-up at, Joe's Bar, some kind of bar there. Come on in, baby. So one of the ways that we survived during the day back in the 80s and 90s is as female comics, we looked out for each other, we hung out to each other, and we were our own fan club. We said, yes, you are funny. That was great. Keep going. I love it. Here we are all these years later, And I decided I wanted to get some of the girls back together. So Rachel Lovey, she's our mama. She's the one that got me into comedy. She believed in us. Pebbles Brunel. And then I thought, we need to bring some of the newer generation in. Karen Wentowski, hilarious. Maja DeGiorgio. And then I discovered Mary Gallagher. I also brought in Wendy Pollan. Each one of us has used comedy to deal with adversity in our lives. And not only did we recover, but we're better. So here we all are, gathered in the green room, getting ready to do another show at Flappers Comedy Club. It was like a wonderful catch-up group therapy.
This is a true story that this cowboy, he jumps up, he's so shit-faced and drunk, he tried to get on the stage with him. I don't know, you're so good looking, I don't know whether they laugh at you or fuck you. And I thought, I'm gonna try right now. So he tried to tap me on stage.
Wow. Oh, I've had people a guy walk up and grab my crotch on stage.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had other comedians who are actually famous try to beat me up. I've had so many crazy things.
I was at a place called Page 4 where I first started, and there was a shooting, and this guy said to the woman, "No, I didn't cheat on you," and she said, "Yes, you did," and so he started shooting up the place. And to comics how important time is.
Yeah.
I had 4 minutes left. As a place. I don't care what he does. This is the only time I ever had a killer set there.
Well, I was in a class, and Phil Foster, whose real name is Phil Feldman, who used to be on Laverne and Shirley, the dad,
Right.
didn't like any Jewish material. And I didn't particularly do it, but I was doing some material.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be reminded that he was Jewish. And the class was hysterical, laughing. And
Right.
he turned around and said, "If you ever do that material again, I'll kill you. I swear to God, I'll kill you."
My boyfriend just broke up with me. Yeah, he said he wasn't feeling effusive about the relationship, and I was like, what a jerk, making me look up words. I don't know what that means.
You need to be funny because otherwise life is awful.
How many married people in the house? Okay, how many years? 22. Wow, okay, me too. Yeah, over 3 marriages.
I think comedy is not only healing, I think it's cathartic. You get to a point that instead of going to rage, you go to laughing hysterically. So taking those things and looking at things squarely, and instead of going into depression about it, turning it outwardly.
When you're born, you think things would get better, that there'd be a light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody told you it was the train coming from the other direction.
My former husband is Italian. He has a huge sex drive. It's 500 gigabytes. It holds all his porn. Kept telling him, you gotta back that thing up.
I'm a single mom, and my daughter is 12. I love hanging out with her, even when she doesn't want me around. I am trying to explore even more material about being a single parent because it's new to me.
My daughter and I, we have so much fun together. We do a lot of play acting. Like, we'll put on a whole production of Cinderella, and I'll have her mop all the floors while I try on shoes.
See, well, I can out-crazy your mom. My mom was bipolar, but she was a beautiful-looking redhead, and she left my dad 19 times, and each time I would have to be on a bus with my 2 little sisters in the trailways, going back to Texas, where I'm originally from. And I would be living with my Irish granny, Alma Mae O'Honey, and she would dip snuff, spit it, and say, you know what, little darling? Maggie just needs to get right with the Lord. I'm blessed, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. What we do is we normalize things for human beings to say, yeah, been there, done that. It didn't stop me. I'm still here, and I'm still happy, and so can you.
Humor in stressful situations, which is daily life, is everything. Like, I know I can walk into a room, and if I'm uptight about something, it's going to affect everybody. And if I can make a joke about it, it just disarms everything about it. And now we can actually play and deal with the problem as opposed to being like, here's my problem.
Even though my daughter's only 9, I'm already preparing her for college. Like, whenever I get sick, I have her hold my hair back, in case she wants to join a sorority.
Laughter is the best way of dealing with anything, I find. Because I had a craniotomy that's different than a lobotomy. One gives you a Picasso face, and the other puts you in a happy place. I should mention I did have brain surgery, and I wrote a little ditty about it.
Wendy Pollan is a profile on courage. I love her very much. It's not what happens to you, it's how you reframe it.
I have a Buddy Hackett face, which makes me feel so out of place. Back in the 70s, late 70s, I met Andy Kaufman, and this whole world of comedy opened up. And so I started writing comedy songs, and I had the necessity for brain surgery. And this was a big shocker. Nobody told me about this. It doesn't really bother me as long as I feel good, you know, because I don't have to look at me. At least I only drool a bit, and I can play the fool with it. I thought, I have to own this somehow. I have to own it. So I wrote a song about the brain surgery and what it was like, and then I did some stand-up after, and it felt great to me, and the people were all amazing. It was my way back into the world. And I'm happier now than I was when I was young and 20. I don't have much in the way of pride, but I'm happy to be here.
We bond in tragedy, we bond in complaint, and confessions will give the stand-up the vulnerability on stage that's needed for the audience to say, oh, that's happening in my life. So the artist is almost speaking for you, and that's in comedy what's so amazing.
So I'll tell you my miserable life. Well, anyway. No, I'm excited to be on a show with a bunch of women, because often we see a lot of guys on stage, and I have a lot of male friends that are comedians I've known for years, and they always come on and talk about their wives now, and I'm like, wow, somebody married you? I have no kids, but that's because I've yet to date a guy that deserves to be replicated. I actually think that's why I do comedy now, because I love it, and because of what I believe and what I'm saying.
I walked into a disco and this guy yelled across a crowded room, "Would you like to freebase?" I'm Jewish, I heard the word free. But you know what worked a lot better than freebasing? Meth. No, meth worked really good. Look, I'm only 23.
Artists are willing to take risks that normal people are not. And being vulnerable is one of those risks.
And when I first got sober, you have to get like a thing called a sponsor in a program. It's like a 12-step thing. And she said, you cannot date. You have a lot of issues in your life. You can't date. You have to buy a vibrator. It's the only technology that I know how to use. Comedy has saved my life and does every day. And I don't have a lot of fear like I used to. I may be more fearful than some others, but compared to where I came from, I'm fearless.
I think comedians are just people that show everything. We show what you can't show. You can't say how much you hate this. I can say it.
But it's not my job to tell you guys what to eat or what to think. My job is to make bigger mistakes than you do so you can laugh at mine and feel better about yours. And I'm very good at my job. Have you ever asked someone when the baby was due and they weren't pregnant? Yeah. Guys hate that.
Comedy is not just therapy for us comics. It's also for our audience.
There is no better feeling than to make people laugh and to relieve whatever their burden is, even if it's for that moment.
And I'm not a cougar. I don't know what that's about. The other night I was out on a date with a young guy. In the middle of the date, I had a hot flash. And I was too embarrassed to tell him, so I told him I had tuberculosis.
How many times have I gotten off the stage and someone would walk up to me? I was growing up in Texas too, and I had a mama just like you that was a smarty pants with the red hair and drove us all crazy.
When they come up to me after a show and they tell me their story, and now I'm in it.
Both my parents live in Wisconsin. Both of my parents are former United States Marines. When I talk about them, people think I probably had a pretty strict upbringing, but I didn't. You know, I stood guard duty all night just like any of you did.
Comedy, humor, therapy is so important. It's lightening up and not taking yourself so seriously. You know, this life is just too short.
Who has time for that? I'd rather just go out and enjoy life and do whatever I can. And if I look like this, you know, maybe someone else can feel better about themselves.
My first marriage was with a redneck in Texas. His name was Bubba, and he'd just ride the truck up and take his shirt, "Get in the truck!" So one day I got in the truck and I left. The moral of my story is you don't have to be a comic or a therapist in order to use humor to make yourself feel better. You can do it too.
Thank you. I'm Carol Metcalf, and thank you for coming out tonight.